having me here today. 1199, thank you for your support. DC 37, thank DC 37 for its support, and many, many others. So we carry two bills. I don't have to really explain them to you. You know what they are. One would require reimbursement for commercial insurance carriers for mental health services that are provided by the licensed creative art therapist. That's really a furtherance of Timothy's Law, which was all about creating parity with medical health and mental health care and therapy and treatment. And then the other is Medicaid, requiring direct reimbursement to the licensed creative art therapist. So why is this important? It's important because of access. If you can't pay for your care, then you don't have access to that care. It's also about access because in many of our communities, we have a desert of mental health professionals. And so offering this care and this reimbursement may help some of the folks who live in rural communities where there are not a lot of mental health disciplines there, but there may be a creative art therapist in the area that will help them out. So I said I would share a story, and it's about Mary Carriola. Mary Carriola is a school in my district, in our area, and they provide services for individuals, young people with intellectual and developmental disabilities. And so I was at their school a couple of years ago, and there was this one young person, I think was probably around 6, 7, maybe 8 years old, and could not talk, didn't have verbal skills, until he started getting care from a creative art therapist. And through music, within 6 months, he developed the ability to begin to speak. And he then was able to further his relationship with his mom and his dad and his siblings. And that's life-changing, and it's so vitally important. And so, this was a young person who was on the autism spectrum, and it really helped him out a lot. There's other older people who are having nonverbal issues, and whether or not with this example where he actually got to speak, through art you can communicate, and through art you can communicate to a person who has been trained in offering mental health therapy. And so even if you can't communicate through words, or maybe through body language, you can communicate through art. And so what you do is amazing work. We should value the work you do. We should recognize and respect that you have been licensed to do this type of work, and to do psychotherapy work, to do counseling, to do therapy, and to help our folks be all they can be. And poor Summer, she hears me say this all the time, but I'm going to say it again.
Can I say it for you? No, I'm just kidding.
I began to develop a mantra when I was in college at SUNY Oswego. Oh, UUP's here too, aren't you? There you go. It just occurred to me, UUP's here. You're not on my list, but I knew you were here. So at SUNY Oswego, I began to develop a mantra, and it carries with me in all my work, whether it's in my business, whether it's in the work I do as a legislature, whether it's the work I do as an individual. And that is, no matter who you are, what you look like, where you come from, how you identify, who you love, or what you are doing. We all have dignity. And with that, we deserve equity, justice, and opportunities. So your work is seeing people for who they are, recognizing their dignity, and offering them opportunities. So to you, I say thank you, thank you, thank you.
in 2020, I was doing some organizing. I was organizing phone banks to try to get women elected, to try to get women of color elected. We called them Wonder Woman Wednesdays. And on one of those Wednesdays, I met a woman who wore that moniker better than anybody I have ever met. She is now a New York State Senator, and she is now the chairwoman of the Mental Health Standing Committee in the Senate, and we couldn't be happier. Senator Samara Brooke is a Wonder Woman. She gets things done. I'm going to keep saying that. She gets things done. And in Albany, that's not always easy to do. You need to be able to bring people together. You need to be able to explain issues. Sometimes issues are very complicated to explain. Explaining the mental health care system in New York State to other people is not easy. Yet day in and day out, when she's not home with her new baby, and that's so new, and driving back and forth to Rochester and taking care of issues in Rochester, she is here explaining the issues of greatest importance to a wide variety of communities, to the leadership of the state senate and to the governor's office. She does it with style and grace. And she always does it with that beautiful smile on her face, and this is why. That's her secret weapon. Senator Samara Brooke, our bill sponsor and our champion.
I'm going to bring you with me every budget week. I need a pump up after this week. But I am so happy to be with you always. What a crew that you've got here. I know we shouted out 1199 DC 37 UP. Is there anyone else we missed? All right, that's a lot. That's a lot. And you know, I think. Thank you. You know, I think Assemblymember Bronson said it so well. So I will add to it that there was a moment in time where I think many of the folks behind me felt they needed to convince leadership, convince policymakers that there was a mental health crisis. They had to convince people in these decision-making positions that there was a workforce shortage, that we were not meeting the needs of New Yorkers and especially their mental health needs. The good news is I think we have convinced everyone. I think that the COVID pandemic accelerated the workforce shortages, accelerated really the intensity of the mental health needs of our communities. So great, we all agree in Albany there is a mental health crisis. In fact, our Surgeon General even said it. He said the youth mental health crisis is the crisis of our time. The problem is, with everyone on every floor of this Capitol that agrees with us that we are in a mental health crisis, that we are in a mental health care workforce shortage, we still don't have the courage to do the simple things that we know need to get done to be able to meet this moment. And so when we sit here day in and day out talking about solving this crisis, I get to tell people, well, did you know there are 2 pieces of legislation that would make sure that our licensed creative art therapists can actually do more of this work, can actually get reimbursed from Medicaid, can get reimbursed from individual insurance plans. And when you look at many of them behind us today, but there are thousands of these licensed therapists across New York State who could be doing more. Do y'all want to do more? In their way from being able to help and serve and support people across New York State who need that help and still make sure that the amazing people behind me can support their own families. So that's what we're doing. We can't say every day that we're in this crisis. We can't show in our State of the State a whole screen saying, you know, we're going to do this for mental health, we're going to solve the mental health crisis, but then not act on this legislation. And that's why Assemblymember Bronson and I are pushing to get both of these pieces of legislation passed and signed so we can actually make a difference. And the thing I want to end on is, you know, I share this with Assemblymember Bronson, that we often think about the most vulnerable New Yorkers. Oftentimes the people who actually don't even have the very privilege of standing at the Capitol with us, of speaking in front of cameras and having people share their information and listen to their stories. We're talking about people who are new Americans. We're talking about refugees. We're talking about children. We're talking about people who are nonverbal or who don't speak English as their first language. Guess who does an amazing job, particularly with that group of vulnerable New Yorkers? I'll answer it for you. Licensed creative art therapists. My guiding light, it's not a phrase as good as Harry Bronson's, but I really do believe when we solve challenges for the most vulnerable people in New York, we solve that challenge for everyone. And that is why we are so committed to getting these two pieces of legislation over the finish line. And I just have to shout out all these people. This is not their day job to stand on stairs in the Capitol, but y'all took the time out to make sure that you showed up and showed out, and I thank you so much for that.
Ortiz is a LCAT. She is also a member of 1199 SEIU. She helped organize this. She put people on buses. She even brought the snacks. These are the kind of people we have here today. They are committed to getting these issues resolved, and they will do anything it takes to get them resolved. And there is no better example of this than Gabriella. And I would love for you to hear the reason she's here and her story right now. So I would like to call down my friend, Gabriella Ortiz.
Gabriella.
Hi, so my name is Gabriella Ortiz. I'm a licensed creative arts therapist, and I proudly represent 1199. Let me hear you. We are gathered here today knowing that we must confront the profound mental health crisis afflicting our state. Governor Hochul professes a commitment to prioritizing mental health care, yet her actions contradict this pledge. By restricting New Yorkers' access to creative arts therapy services, she betrays her supposed priorities, dealing a devastating setback to equitable health care, especially for our historically marginalized communities. In labor, we understand. An injury to one is an injury to all. Creative arts therapies offers an invaluable and irreplaceable approach to psychotherapy. We understand the profound impacts of multidimensional trauma on the human psyche, recognizing that healing requires a holistic bottom-up approach. It is an embodied practice, addressing the impacts of lived experience on the body, mind, and spirit. A practice that works with the whole person in a way that traditional therapies often cannot address. This fight reminds me of my clinical work with the young man from West Africa, undocumented, uninsured, living below the poverty line, and enduring the rigors of weekly medical treatments. He discovered his voice and a platform to process his struggles through songwriting. In his songs, he sang about resentment and anger toward a system that was indifferent to his needs, and about the pain of being abandoned by those he trusted. Through music therapy, he found inner resources of strength that kept him committed to his weekly medical treatments. Music became a powerful tool to manage his pain, sparing him from the dangers of harmful and addictive medications and confronting his battles with depression. His journey has deeply resonated with me, reaffirming the transformative power of creative arts therapy. It underscores the capacity for the arts to transcend barriers, illuminate hidden truths, and pave the way towards profound personal growth and health. As creative arts therapists, we occupy a distinctive position within broader healthcare, one that cannot be replicated or replaced. Our allied professionals rely upon us, and with severe resource shortages, staffing challenges, and widespread burnout among our allied professionals, New York cannot afford fewer mental health practitioners. So I'd like to ask each of you to join me in advocating for creative arts therapy within the commercial health insurance and Medicaid bills. Let us stand in solidarity to ensure that no one is left behind in their journey towards healing and wholeness. Together, we can strengthen our communities. Thank you.
And how important it is. So Gianna, I would love for you to come up.
Thank you all for being here today. As a licensed creative art therapist and a representative of New York City Health and Hospitals, I stand before you with great enthusiasm and determination to advocate for this significant step forward in access to care. For too long, mental health care has been underserved and underfunded. Far too many individuals struggling with mental illness have not had access to the care that they need. These bills seek to address the gap by providing Medicaid reimbursement to creative arts therapy. By integrating the arts into the therapeutic process, individuals can explore and access their emotions in ways that traditional talk therapy simply cannot always allow. As a licensed creative art therapist, I have had the privilege to see firsthand how deeply our clients value these services. I've been confronted by clients who receive creative arts therapy services on inpatient units and wish to continue to engage in this work as they move along the continuum of care. New York City Health and Hospitals recognizes the importance of holistic approaches to healthcare, and creative arts therapy aligns perfectly with our commitment to addressing the mental health needs of our communities. The passage of this bill not only recognizes the value and efficacy of creative arts therapy, but also ensures that it is accessible to all regardless of socioeconomic status. By providing Medicaid reimbursement for these services, we are breaking down barriers to care and expanding the reach of mental health support, ultimately creating safer and healthier communities for all. Research conducted by the National Institute of Health has shown that investing in mental health services can lead to better health outcomes and reduced healthcare costs in the long term. At NYS Health and Hospitals, the largest safety net healthcare system in the nation, Medicaid reimbursement is vital in the sustainment and the expansion of services. We currently have over 130 LCATs working across service lines, including inpatient and outpatient behavioral health, child and adolescent behavioral health, substance use recovery, maternal mental health, and medicine. We've received over 400 comments in the past year alone from patients who have cited that creative arts therapy services were the best part of their hospital experience. The American Journal of Medicine presented creative arts therapy as an intervention to reduce psychological distress for healthcare professionals. Since the pandemic, the system conducted over 4,000 staff wellness events, most of them facilitated by LCATs, to combat burnout and vicarious traumatization. I urge you all to stand in support of this legislation. In doing so, we can ensure that every New Yorker has access to the mental health care that they deserve.
Along with some others, founded our organization, the Licensed Creative Arts Therapy Advocacy Coalition. So if your feet hurt and you're ready to sit down, blame her. But she is the person, she had a vision for the organization. She had a vision for this day. She knew that there could be more done on behalf of the creative arts therapists. She brought together some of the best and brightest from throughout the state to help to run this coalition. Entirely volunteer, giving up time away from their patients, away from their offices, away from their families, to come here, to talk to the legislators, to get on many, many Zooms with Assemblyman Bronson, to continue to message forward, to bring new organizations into the coalition. She has stopped at nothing. She will stop at nothing until we get our bills, because that's the kind of leader she is, and we are very, very fortunate to have her here. Maya, will you please come up and say a few words?
And I'm a licensed creative arts therapist and the founder of the LCAT Advocacy Coalition. I am proud to stand here representing over 2,000 licensed creative arts therapists. I am beyond grateful for our supporters, including 1199, DC 37, NYC Health and Hospitals, and countless allied professionals, including social workers, doctors, and mental health counselors. Thank you also to Assemblymember Bronson and Senator Brooke for their tireless support. I have been a licensed creative arts therapist for 13 years, but I never imagined myself standing here today. The LCAT Advocacy Coalition started because I was angry. I was angry that LCATs kept getting removed from crucial mental health bills, angry that we were overlooked for our valuable skills, angry that I had to keep turning people in need away because of insurance, and angry that I felt powerless. So I channeled that anger and frustration into action. Because the reality is this: licensed creative arts therapists are already valued members of the mental health workforce across New York State. We provide psychotherapy in a wide variety of inpatient and outpatient settings, including at New York Presbyterian Hospital, LSA Family Health Services, NYC Health and Hospitals, New Alternatives for Children, University of Rochester Medical Center, Hillside Children's Center, and hundreds of other places. In my own clinical work, I have helped at-risk mothers in Bronx Hospital develop coping skills, help minimally verbal children improve their communication skills, and help trauma survivors process unspeakable horrors. Creative arts therapy is powerful. It is accessible. It is, in the words of one of my clients, the most helpful therapy I've ever tried. New Yorkers know it, and all of us standing here today know it. New Yorkers deserve unfettered access to working with licensed creative arts therapists. Please join me and the LCAT Advocacy Coalition in advocating for expanded access to LCATs today. Let's pass our comprehensive Medicaid and commercial health insurance bills and give New Yorkers the mental health care options they deserve. Thank you.
While the Assemblyman is still here with the dream team behind me, please feel free to do so. And the rest of you, cheer, yell, whatever.
Could you take my picture just here? Could you take my picture just here? Habla español, toca aquí.
Sí, you wanna go eat the grilled chicken that's